Good morning, everyone. There's a particular kind of night that feels different from all the others. Not louder, not more dramatic, just charged, like the air before a storm that hasn't broken yet, like the last few seconds of silence before something speaks. If tonight feels like that to you, if there's something in the quality of these hours that doesn't feel ordinary, then maybe you already know what this is about. You're waiting for words, specific ones, from a specific person, or maybe from a situation, a decision, a development, an answer that has been withholding itself for longer than feels bearable. And the waiting in these particular hours has a different quality than it did yesterday. More acute, more present, like the distance between now and the knowing has finally collapsed enough to be felt in the body, not just in the mind, in the actual physical body, in the chest maybe, in the particular tightness that lives there when something significant is close, in the way you've been moving today, slightly differently than usual, more carefully, more slowly, like someone carrying something fragile who doesn't want to disturb it before they reach the place where they can finally set it down. Uh, and the words, the ones that are coming, you've been imagining them, probably in several versions, probably in more detail than you'd admit. The best version, the one that resolves everything cleanly, the one where what they say is exactly what you needed to hear, where the news lands like relief, sudden, complete physical relief, the kind that makes you exhale in a way you haven't been able to for however long this has been building. And then the other version, the one you visit less willingly, the one where the words aren't what you hoped, where the news arrives differently, in a shape you weren't ready for, where the exhale doesn't come, where what follows the words is a different kind of silence, heavier than the one before them, more permanent, the kind that means something has been decided and the deciding is done, and what remains is just living with it. You've been holding both versions simultaneously, the way you hold things when the outcome matters enough that neither hope nor dread can fully crowd the other out, and that holding, that specific exhausting tension of carrying two contradictory futures at once is its own particular kind of weight, one that doesn't announce itself, one that just accumulates in the hours, in the silence between now and when. And here's the thing about those hours. These hours, the ones you're in right now, they have a texture that the hours after won't have. Once the words arrive, once the news lands in whatever form it takes, this particular quality of suspension ends. The not knowing ends, and something else begins. Something that requires a different kind of navigation, a different kind of presence. But this right now, this specific state of still not knowing, this ends the moment the words come. And there's something in you, a part you might not have noticed, that knows that. That is acutely aware that these are the last hours of this particular version of the waiting. And that awareness, even though the waiting is uncomfortable, produces something strange, something almost like reluctance, not to know, but to leave this state, this suspended, charged, uncertain state, because uncertain as it is, heavy as it is, it still contains the best version. The hoped for version, the one that lives in the not yet. And once the words arrive, once the not yet becomes now, the best version either becomes real or it doesn't. And there's no going back to the version where it was still possible. That's what lives in these hours. That's what gives them their particular weight. Not just the anticipation, but the grief already beginning for the uncertainty itself, for the state where everything is still possible, for the hours before the words that will make certain things impossible and certain things real, and you're in that grief quietly, probably without naming it as grief, right now. Now, here's what's worth looking at carefully, honestly, in these hours before. Not the words themselves, not the news, not the outcome, but you, what you've discovered about yourself in the waiting for them. Because the waiting, however uncomfortable, has been revealing. The things that surface in the hours before significant words are often the most honest things you'll know about yourself in a long time. What you've been afraid of, not in the general way, not abstractly, but specifically, precisely, in the version you've been avoiding visiting. The specific loss you've been protecting yourself from imagining fully. The specific hope you've been protecting yourself from feeling fully. Both of them, the fear and the hope, have been more visible in these hours than they usually are, more accessible, more honest, because the proximity of the words stripped away some of the usual management, some of the usual distance you keep between yourself and what you actually feel. And what you actually feel underneath the tension, underneath the waiting, is worth knowing, worth sitting with. Not because it changes what the words will be. It doesn't, but because it tells you something about what matters to you, about what you've been carrying, about the specific gravity of this particular person or situation in your interior world. And that gravity, the weight of how much this matters, is information, real, significant information about where you are, about what you need, about what the words whatever they are really being asked to provide. Because here's the thing about words, even the biggest ones, even the most significant, they can only do what words can do. They can inform, they can clarify, they can confirm or deny, they can give you something to hold, finally, concretely, instead of the uncertainty. But there are things they can't do, things no words can do. Regardless of how significant, regardless of how long awaited, regardless of how much relief they carry, they can't tell you who you are, independent of their content. They can't determine your worth, even though in these hours it might feel like they do. They can't make you more real or less real, more valid or less valid, more deserving or less. Even the best possible words, the version you've been hoping for, can't give you something you don't already have. They can reflect it, they can confirm it. But the thing itself, whatever truth you're waiting for the words to validate, is either already true or it isn't. And the words don't create it, they just reveal it or don't. And that's when you sit with it, both reassuring and hard. Reassuring because it means the worst possible words can't actually take from you what is genuinely yours, can't unmake what is real about you, can't close what is genuinely open. Hard because it means the best possible words can't give you what you haven't already found a way to give yourself, can't fill permanently what has been empty, can't resolve finally what has been unresolved in you long before this particular waiting began. And you know that some part of you, the steadiest part, the one that doesn't speak in urgency, already knows that, has known it through the whole waiting, has been quietly aware, even in the hours of most acute anticipation, that the words, when they come, will be just words. Human words from a human source, carrying human meaning, significant, real, consequential even, but not the whole story. Never the whole story, because you are more than the words that are coming, more than the news, more than the outcome of this particular waiting, more than what gets confirmed or denied in the hours ahead. You were more before the waiting started. You'll be more after it ends. And right now, in these specific charged, suspended hours, you are more than the tension of not knowing yet. But that's hard to feel right now. That's worth acknowledging. The more than is hard to feel when the not knowing is this close. When the words are this near, when the chest is doing what it's doing, and the mind is running, and the hours between now and knowing feel like a kind of held breath that your body is tired of holding. That's real. That's human. That's what it feels like to care about something, in the specific way you care about this. And caring this much, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it produces this particular quality of tension, is not a weakness. It's not a problem to be solved. It's just evidence that you're alive to something, that something reached you deeply enough to make these hours feel different from ordinary ones, that you haven't, despite everything, despite the protection and the preparation, gone completely numb to the things that matter, that some part of you is still capable of this, of caring enough to feel the weight of the hours before, knowing that part, the one that still cares this much, is worth protecting. Not from the words, not from the news, but from the conclusion, whichever direction the words go, that caring this much was a mistake. That feeling this deeply was naive. That the next time after this resolves, in whatever way it resolves, you should care less, feel less, want less, protect yourself more thoroughly from the specific vulnerability of being in hours like these. Because that conclusion, however understandable, is the one that slowly closes things. That slowly makes you smaller. That turns the protection, one waiting at a time, one set of hours at a time, into a wall instead of a door. And you, the version of you that's alive enough to be in these hours the way you're in them, deserves to stay a door. Even after the words, even after the news, whatever it is. So here, in these last hours before, whatever it is you're waiting for arrives. Maybe the most important thing isn't to prepare for the words or to manage the anticipation or to run the scenarios one more time. Maybe it's just to be here fully in these specific hours with all of it, the tension, the hope, the fear, the strange, quiet grief for the uncertainty that's about to end. All of it, yours. Real evidence of a life that still feels things deeply enough to make certain hours, certain quiet, charged, suspended hours feel different from all the others. The words are coming. That's true. In hours. In whatever form they take. In whatever shape the news arrives. But you are already here. Already whole. Already more than what the words will say about you. Whatever they say, however they land, you were already this before the hours, before the waiting, before the words, already exactly this